This was several years ago. I bought a package of 5 really crappy duplexes. And then later on, as we were going through the process of rehabbing those duplexes, I bought another really crappy single family house, and then 2 residential lots. And then more recently, 2 more duplex lots. It's kind of a tough one. So those 5 duplexes, like, hindsight's 2020. At the time, I thought I was getting a good deal, but it ended up not being a very good deal. So I overpaid for them. We didn't realize that we'd overpaid for them until we got inside of them and like really got them gutted down, and they were in way worse shape than we thought. And so it was a really tough project. It probably took us 2 years to get all the way through rehabbing the first 5 duplexes. At the time when we finished, we were probably like break even. If we would have had to sell them, we would have been like break even or even a little bit upside down in them. But it's just a good example, especially with real estate, like time heals a lot of those mistakes. They've all now been fully renovated for a couple years. They've been leased up and have been great rental properties. And then since then, we've done several more projects in this neighborhood. So it's a nice little neighborhood now. In some of our other units as well, we'd had some smaller Airbnb midterm rentals. So all 1 bedrooms. 2 of these down here were some of those Airbnb or midterm rental units. And they've been great. It's just we found that they made a little bit more money than long-term rentals, but not enough to, like, I guess, warrant the extra work. So we've been in the process of switching them back over from Airbnbs to just regular long-term rental properties. We have 1 Airbnb unit left down the street that will probably leave for the rest of the year, but the rest of them have all been switched back to long-term rentals. One of the things we did on these is they didn't used to have parking pads. We did obviously renovated the exterior to the buildings. We added the driveways, the individual parking pad driveways for each unit. I think people just like having a spot to park off street. Convinced us to doing the rocks because they would look nice and there wouldn't be any weeds or anything like that. Hindsight being 2020, I think it was a horrible idea. This was the first and last time we'll do rock. We do grass on everything now because at least when weeds grow up through the grass and you mow it, it still looks decent. But the weeds have been a constant issue with the rock. So it looks good, but it's definitely not low maintenance. So we probably won't do the rock anymore. So this is one of the units that we had as a Airbnb rental previously. And so it was fully furnished and on it booked really well. So we had pretty steady bookings on them. We just felt that, again, at the end of the year, we made slightly more on the Airbnbs versus the long-term rentals. And they were relatively easy management for the most part, but every once in a while we'd have like a problem guest, and it just kind of made it not worth it. So we're in the process of switching it back over. It looks like this one's just been turned over. We donated all of the furnishings, so instead of selling all the furnishings, there's a local organization that helps set up. It's like young people coming out of foster care that basically have nothing and maybe just a very entry-level job. And so they help them get set up in their first apartment and help them usually with like donated just basic furnishings, but we were able to package up the entire everything they would need to get started. So furniture, basic small appliances, kitchenware, linens, everything. And so we donated them to that group, and then that way with those younger people, they can just kind of give them a apartment furnishing in a box type deal. So it worked out well that way, but now that it's vacant, it should get leased up pretty quickly, and we'll have another long-term tenant in here. Somebody at our church is heavily involved with them, and so that's how I knew about it. But I know it's an organization that's what they specialize in is helping those people that are coming out of foster care as young adults. They're super nice. They were in really bad shape. So I was joking around. It's like an antique structure or an antique shell in new construction on the inside. And so just the way they were, it's got super tall 10-foot ceilings, can lighting, and then again, kind of more modern inside, luxury vinyl plank, nice granite countertops. We opted for the under-the-counter washing machine dryer in lieu of a dishwasher, which I don't love. They haven't lasted that long, but I think it's important since there's not a laundry room in here. It gives people option to use these instead of going to the laundromat. So very nice units though. They're just 1 bedroom. So this is the kitchen, living room area. You got a full bath and then 1 bedroom. It's got a little deck and fenced in backyard in the back. Other than having tall ceilings, it's pretty basic, just full bathroom. We do the tub, shower inserts, and most of these, the more modestly priced rental properties. And then again, these are smaller, they're only 1 bedroom, but because they've got the high ceilings and they're very nice, we've had good luck at renting them out quickly and a little bit higher rents than some of the like 1 bedroom apartments that we have. They're a little bit bigger with the higher ceilings. I think these ones were like $11.95 or something like that. And then some of the smaller units are $9.95. When you're looking at per square foot, the price per square foot on these smaller units it's a lot higher than our houses. So if you're just looking at a per square foot price, I guess the multiple is a lot higher, opposed to like we've got a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house that's rented for more than this one unit. But when you look at the per square foot price, it's not as close to being as high as this is. There's only 1 bedroom, but they're pretty good size bedrooms. So it's got a larger master bedroom plus the high ceilings and a decent sized closet. So again, for a 1 bedroom unit, this is a big unit. And they've been fairly popular with tenants. Probably almost could have done like another bedroom upstairs. I just don't think it would have been worth it. I think there's a lot of people shy away from 1 bedroom units, but I think there's a big need for them because younger single people or whatever in school, they don't need a huge apartment or a house. They're totally okay with renting a nicer 1 bedroom. This is a 1 bedroom unit. We're really competing with like apartments, right? But I think one of the things that really sets us apart, whenever we can, like on these townhome or duplex units, we'll do a fenced backyard. And I think just for me personally, and I think for a lot of our tenants, having their own little yard space, even though it's small and it's definitely nothing fancy, I think it's a big selling point. And especially if they have pets or anything, having the little spot in the backyard for their pets is a big win, especially when they're comparing an apartment to one of our units. This is one of those things that really sets us apart, I think. On all of our units internally, we allow pets, and we don't have any size or breed restrictions on dogs. I'm a dog person, and I'm a ginormous dog person, so I've got an English Mastiff, and so I couldn't imagine if I had to rent. You know, it would be tough for me to find somebody that would allow that dog. So we don't restrict the type of pets we allow. We charge $350 fee, so not a refundable, but just a straight up $350 fee up front, and then $25 per month per pet. So I love allowing pets, but I will say that we have had some situations where pets caused an extreme amount of damage because the tenants were not good pet owners. I mean, we didn't know that until after they moved out. And so that fee just helps mitigate that risk so that we can continue to allow pets. A lot of landlords will have one bad experience and they just won't allow pets anymore. We charge that fee. It's a little bit of extra income for us, and then it's, God forbid, we have issues like that. It kind of helps offset some of that risk. The unit next door, the lady that moved in there has been a great tenant, but she has a pet, and she wanted her pet to be comfortable. She actually paid out of her pocket to landscape the backyard. There's like some little trees back there, and there was sod. It needs some maintenance right now, but it was that important to her that she actually made the backyard nicer so that her pet was comfortable when she was away at work each day. So that's how important I think the pet thing is to people. Property management companies do things differently. We don't do, and I can remember renting when I was younger and the whole last month's thing, we don't do it like that. We do a refundable security deposit when they move in. The refundable security deposit is usually about 1 month's rent. But again, that's something that's held. If the unit's returned in the same condition, that's returned back to the tenant. If there's repairs that need to be made or the professional cleaning, stuff like that, that gets deducted. But our goal in a perfect world would be to return that full amount every time. And then we just do the first month's rent or even a prorated rent. So if somebody's moving on the 15th, they're paying that security deposit and then half a month's rent to move in. And then they start paying, on a monthly basis moving forward. So I think we try to keep the move-in cost as low as possible. I do understand where people are moving, that's expensive and it's a big cost. If you're requiring first and last months plus a security deposit, like that get crazy expensive for people really quickly. We do have to charge the security deposit though, and usually we prefer to charge that full first month's rent because what we don't want is to have people that know they're not going to be a good tenant to move in and then stop paying immediately, because that has happened before. So it's something we have to be very aware of, and that can get very costly very quickly. So we had no problem getting them financed from the start, but it was kind of a crazy story. We used a guidance line of credit to buy all 5, and we were going to rehab them, and we were going to start rehab immediately until we got down here and started working on the first one. And there used to be a house right there, and then one on the other side of this green one, and they were both occupied by like hoarder tweakers selling meth out of the properties and stealing stuff. I mean, just like the worst type of problem neighbors you could ever anticipate. And so I found out who owned them, and I'd had a conversation with the local neighborhood that they were actively trying to evict them and get them out of here. And so it was a crazy story because, like, so we waited. We didn't want to get too far in the construction, have the theft and everything. We wanted to wait until they were going to get kicked out of here. The owner, he had to wait for the eviction because of COVID. When that moratorium ended, he got the eviction. They served notice. They came back a week later. They saw it moved out. They're supposed to like have them leave, and then they can schedule time later to come back and clear out their stuff at a time that's convenient for both parties. And so I'm sure against the recommendation of his attorney and the law enforcement and everybody that was there, they didn't leave. They made them leave the house, and the guy backed a huge excavator off of a semi-truck trailer and just literally demolished both houses immediately upon the eviction being serviced because he was so tired of dealing with it. So he literally demolished both houses. After that, at some point, we just bought the little white house back there, which was in just as bad a shape. And I tried to use the bank for the same financing. Well, the appraiser went out there, and I guess he got startled by some kind of crazy-looking homeless person in the backyard. And he wrote an email, this like nasty email to the bank saying how it was like the worst neighborhood he'd ever seen, and just like basically trashed the house, and like I didn't feel safe and all this stuff. Well, that I think freaked out the bank. So the bank refused to do the financing on that house, and then they started giving me a hard time on the duplexes because they haven't been finished yet. I explained that we had waited because we were waiting for that whole eviction situation to pan out, and it was finished, and we were gonna start moving forward. Well, they ended up kind of, they said that the 6 months or the year had passed on the guidance line, and so they weren't going to fund any more construction draws. And then they did something that I thought was completely shady, where they said that they funded the rest. So like, I had $300-something thousand set aside for construction financing. They said that they funded the whole thing and then paid it off so that they could charge make the payments based off the full $700,000 instead of the $300,000 that I had borrowed to date. And so it was a weird thing. It kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. I haven't done business with them again and would be hesitant to do so. And it was probably more the lender than it was the bank itself, but it was a weird situation. Nonetheless, we were able to go to another bank that we had a good relationship with. They were totally okay with doing the loan immediately, and it just caused us maybe a 30-day delay. We got a new construction loan, and then that's when we started the full construction on it. If you guys like this video, don't forget to like the video and subscribe, and then also share it with anybody who you think might get some value out of it. Also, don't hesitate to ask questions. If anybody's got any questions or there's anything they would like to see a video on, I think we're going to try to start spending some time, and we'll either answer those in the comments and or maybe give us some stuff that we could do a video specifically about. So if you get any questions or would like to see any future videos, don't be afraid to put them in the comments.